development for northeast states of India and extraordinary growth of Assam. Dr. Ashok Khosla, a person who gave new direction to civil society movement in India, having feathers in his hat, such as IUCN, Club of Rome, Development Alternatives, and World Future Council. Lieutenant General Arun Kumar Sahani, a soldier changed as environmentalist, retired as General Officer Commanding in Chief of one of the 6 operation commands of the Indian Army, and gave new direction to voluntary organization with the passion. I request you all to please come on stage, sir. Mr. Ramadurai, Mr. Ranjit, Dr. Ashok Khosla, Lieutenant General Arun. Can we please put our hands together as they join us on stage? Over to you, Lieutenant, sir.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, a very warm thank you to all of you for coming here. To get people, and with the traffic of Delhi, to come down far from their present places of work and residence is always a challenge. But thank you very much for being here. But I think the last 2 days of weather has also kept us a little on the toes, because Kashmir got snowed in. So a lot of our speakers and friends who were going to come in, I'm still hoping that if they can take off at 11:45, then we might have them here in the afternoon. And before I say anything, I said we have to apologize. The minister is going to come in at 11 o'clock. We were delighted that from Ladakh, the Lieutenant Governor was able to take off. He's just arrived, so we thought we'll get both of them in at about 11 o'clock. So what we plan to do today in the morning hours, just to cater for this little bit of a change in timings, is I'll just quickly give a rundown on the Club of Rome. Some of those who haven't been, who are not aware of it, but we've got a lot of college students who are here from IP, who are actually the future, who are actually going to ask us the questions of what we have done or what we haven't done. So they're the right people here. Then we'll request Dr. Khosla to set the context for the present discussion. And about 5 to 11, we'll take about a 10 minutes sojourn. We'll receive the minister, get him here, then just go through that bit of formalities. And thereafter, then I'll hand over to Mr. Ramadurai, who would give his opening remarks. We have the Lieutenant Governor then sharing his vision of what is happening there, and then the minister. And after that, we have a tea break. And of course, to keep you involved, we had this scintillating music out here. And as a filler, we have a documentary which we will try and flash immediately after Dr. Khosla finishes off his, after he has given us an idea about how we're going to conduct this. What do I start by? I think Akanksha correctly said, the Club of Rome, just for those who don't, because the Club of Rome actually sounds like a social gathering. But I think all good decisions in the army, they always say, happen over a drink, I think. Otherwise, things don't move ahead. So maybe the Club of Rome is apt for the kind of discussion that needed to be done. You don't have to have a drink, but you can always have a soft drink in your hands. But the issue is, an informal setup is where I think ideas pass between people in a very open and frank manner. And that sort of sets the stage to be able to identify key issues that affect all of us. And as she said correctly, I think it's an organization of individuals who have a common concern for the future of humanity and will strive to make a difference in your own manner, whatever bit that you can do. Just to put it in context, it was founded in 1968. It was in Rome. Oriolo Pesci, who was that time the head of Fiat, he decided that I think the way we are going and utilizing our bioresources is not real, and our consumption patterns. So they got together, and another gentleman called Alexander King, who was a social scientist, between them and a group of other such like-minded people, they sat down and then took out the first report which actually made the Club of Rome what it in international, sort of brought it into the international space. And that was this book on limits to growth. And I think before I talk about the limits to growth, I must share that what was the mission of these people when they decided to get together? It was to promote understanding of global challenges facing humanity and to propose solutions with scientific analysis, communication, and advocacy. So what was the mission for the Indian associations? So thereafter, we actually had a large number of them, and today we've got about 32 national associations across the world. They're independent because they look at issues which are relevant to the country where they belong to or where they reside, and then try and look at those problems and find solutions. And you have this large network where you can sort of tap in to be able to get, as I say, experiential information, data that would help you to be able to make the right kind of decision making. And I must say that Dr. Khosla, who started this in India in 2011, along with Mr. Ramadurai, was one of the presidents of the International Club of Rome somewhere down the line. And when you go on Wikipedia, when they talk about the key people of the Club of Rome, you always find his name being mentioned there as well, as one of the key issues who, at the international scale, made a policy and looked at how regeneration and livelihoods can be increased both in the urban and in the rural landscape, so that you have a more balanced growth as far as India is concerned. And I think that remains the biggest challenge for all of us here. And this year, what we decided was, as the name says, it's with this new change dispensation that we've got in J&K, maybe there is an opportunity to ensure that you use the value addition that we do in that system, the kind of growth that we look at in J&K once it opens up to the rest of the country is in a manner that it is sustainable, that you use the industries which will facilitate and ensure that there is a resource generation in a similar manner as the consumption happens in those places. So for that reason, we have chalked out a very exhaustive 2 days deliberation. Of course, more about that by Dr. Khosla. But just a quick word about the limits to growth. I think the good part about this was that this, I think, in my personal view, was what actually set the mind thinking of the people at that stage to start looking at issues related to the production and the consumption patterns, so that as they talk about it, that the planetary limits are not exceeded. I mean, that's a word which the social scientists talk about, which is very right. Just to say that you shouldn't have pollution in Delhi in the 80s, we never had pollution. Why do we have it today? One is population, one is the kind of consumption pattern, the kind of production facilities that come up in this country. So they're all adding to these kind of a problem as far as you and I are concerned. So I think the issue, when they looked at limits to growth, they felt that in 1950s, the kind of consumption patterns they had, by the time they came to the 70s, we were on literally an exponential growth where we were seeing population growth, food production, industrialization, exploitation of natural resources, of the environment. And if we do not arrest it, you might lead to a collapse in the whole system. And maybe today when we look at the IPCC report of 1.5 degree global warming, you and I are seeing the impact of it. We're talking in Delhi today on FM, whenever you go, you're talking about water shortages here. I mean, it's something which is staring us in the face. If we don't arrest it in the next few days or in the next few years, well, you and I are going to have a problem here. And I think the younger generation that's sitting there is going to question all of us, what did you do which was not right? Or what were the areas that you did not address? And you have left us in such a bad state of affairs. So I think the aim of this group here is to be able to generate thoughts so that J&K and Ladakh, which is a repository of great amount of natural wealth, as I said, what the Himalayas can do can it look at greater generation of renewable energies in the area of Ladakh? Why not? Because if you can get that in the deserts, you've got this beautiful setup there where you've got community land, so you don't change the lifestyle, but you have energy resources coming from there, which ensures that there's no pollutants in the environment which will impact that area. Well, what I would like to say is that I think there's a great opportunity for all of us with this change dispensation, and the aim in the next 2 days would be to see how we can take it ahead, find the right areas to address, share that with the policymakers, and once the policymakers have it, I'm sure we will see the right kind of industries coming up there, the right kind of nuances and moderations being done in the valley, as well as the area of Ladakh. The only thing in J&K and Ladakh, which is what Mr. Skandan will, of course, talk to us about, but what he correctly said, I think there is a sectoral look that is required, or a sub-sectoral look that is required. What is in Kashmir is not the same story in Doda, Kishtwar on the south side of the Pir Panjal. It's not the same side on the west side of the national highway when you go into the area of Mohar and you get closer towards the LC boundary. When you come to Jammu, it's a different story. And when you get closer to the border of Punjab and J&K in the area of Pathankot, Kathua, that area, that's another different dynamic. So you'll have to address these areas in the manner what is possible there, what is the area that needs to be growth and taken ahead. And in the same manner, when you go to Ladakh, I think Eastern Ladakh has a different story. When you look at Kargil, when you look at Daraz, you've got different challenges. And we're very delighted that we've got Mr. Naufel here, who's actually done so much there to ensure that water is created. These artificial glaciers are made thanks to him, which is a great idea for communities to go ahead. So I think this kind of an activity that we will see and sharing their thoughts will actually help us to put it at least in perspective for the people who are going to make the policymakers and the people who are going to make decisions hereafter. So ladies and gentlemen, with that, may I just once again extend a very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for being here, and we look forward to your interactive comments, suggestions, and issues that we can take ahead. And with that, I'm now going to hand over to Dr. Ashok Khosla to set the context of the...
As he said, we're talking about some pretty big issues about survival of civilization, survival of humanity, perhaps survival of some of the life support systems of our planet. The last 200 years have been wonderful. They've increased the number of people who live decent, material, comfortable lives from virtually a few to literally hundreds of millions and billions. But they've also brought with it a certain number of problems. And I'm going to share very, very quickly a few of the reasons why we're here. We're here because we have an opportunity, as the General said, of a renewed attention in a geographical area in the northern Himalayas, where we have the options of either getting it right and being able to leave a legacy for future generations to have a wonderful life, or we get it wrong and then basically we face the kinds of ecological and economic catastrophes that seem to be in the cards at the moment in many other places of the world. Kashmir is a very special place, special in the hearts of all Indians, and indeed all around the world. It's well known for its wealth, natural beauty, its resources, its people, its culture. It has contributed a great deal. So I'm going to take you very quickly through a kind of logical framework. You can't do very much unless you know what the goal is. And I'm going to flash a few visuals across the screen to show you what I think, what my colleagues and I think are the kind of future we want. What is the India that we would like to have? Well, for one thing, we want an India where you cannot read, unfortunately, you cannot read the captions. We have a healthy future for our children. We need water, we need nourishing food, we need shelter and secure tenure, we need health and physical wellness. We need individual development. We need participation in the decisions that affect our lives. We need empowering people so that they can choose the kind of life they want to live. We need personal security. Personal security for everyone, for all people, all kinds of people, rich, poor, whoever is on the landmass is essentially a person who's welfare we need to look at. But then also the economy. It's not just people, but the economy has to work. It needs natural resources, it needs manufacturing capacity, it needs services, it needs trade, it needs investments. Basically, business is also fundamentally important, just as people are. People's behavior has to be changed for the better. Governance. This diagram basically is a logo for against corruption. Neither should you give, nor should you take illicit money. Lena or Dena. So we look at everything in these kinds of ways in the Club of Rome. But the most important thing probably is jobs. Jobs that create a decent life, that produce reasonable amount of income, which give dignity and meaning to life, status in the community. The India we want is actually a place where different kinds of jobs are needed. It's also a place where its resources, its assets, its capital is healthy. And what are its capitals? Well, there are natural capitals like forests, there are rivers, there are wetlands, there are lands and soils. And these are assets without which life becomes impossible. And of course, physical infrastructure. So we need to nurture all types of capital, human, physical, natural, and financial. So when the Club of Rome starts thinking about these things, they think about how do you get the maximum mileage out of what God gave us, what creation gave us. That's the kind of capitals we have. So if we want to live in harmony with each other, we also have to live in harmony with nature. And so you bring together what General called balanced development. It's an area of deep concern to us. Now, that is the world we want. And maybe we'll have a chance to discuss that. Maybe you have different views. Is that not the world you want? Maybe you have some other ideas that you think we should be also including, and we'd love to hear from you. But now, what is the world that we have? We have a world that is quite remarkable. As I said, it's got all kinds of benefits that people can get: mobility, communications, consumption. You have very interesting possibilities for the people who have made it in life. We're well connected. Over the 40 years since 1980, our connectivity and our travel has gone up by a factor of 1,000 or more. Basically, we're well fed, at least some of us, and we would be very happy, except that our income distribution is very skewed. This champagne glass represents the kind of income that we have in our country. The top fifth, 20%, or even less, 10%, get roughly 85 or 90% of the income of this country. And the bottom 50% get 5 or 6%. And you can see that this disparity is a part of the problem that we have to solve, because the people at the bottom end are caught in a vicious cycle of poverty, no markets, more people, more babies, no income, and it just goes on spiraling down. And this is how some of them, many of them, live. This is a great loss to the country. You can imagine how many people are lost in this who could have been ably contributing to a lot. When I go to the countryside and I work with people like that, my first question is, how many Marie Curies or Lata Mangeshkars did we lose? Probably thousands every year, who never had a chance to fulfill their potential or their dreams. This is a family in Bundelkhand, and there are many in Kashmir as well like that, whose entire week's food is actually laid out in front of them there. So we have basically a huge amount of disparity, and we hope that in Kashmir and Jammu and Ladakh, this will not continue to be the case. We have to find ways in which we have a more equitable, more fair development. But there are other impacts of our development choices. Over the last 150, 200 years, we've made lots of choices in technology and consumption patterns and therefore in production systems. And that has led to huge costs to society, like this pollution, like climate change, like extinction of species, like actually, major threats to our natural heritage. Forest fires. It's not only in Australia and in Brazil. Now, forest fires have reached the Arctic. They're in Sweden. And I can tell you they're going to be all over India very soon, too. So these are very major costs. Droughts worldwide, 500 million people live in extreme drought conditions. This is a place in Madhya Pradesh, but it could happen in Kashmir too, where you can see the deserts growing at a phenomenal rate. In India, we lose land to deserts at 10,000 square kilometers per year. And then we're running out of resources. You've probably heard that construction in our country is coming to a grinding halt because there's no sand. The sand mafia is there because it's a very scarce resource. So we're now talking about water and sand and construction materials. We're talking about basically scarcity of all kinds of things. And as a result of all these and natural disasters of various kinds, we have acquired large numbers of eco-refugees, people who cannot stay in their homes for very long. And in many cases, like in Madhya Pradesh, they migrate every year because there's not enough water and food. So what this girl is asking, she and her two little brothers, one is in her lap, is asking, what can I do for my country? I ask on her behalf, what did the country do for her? And basically, we've been looking at these issues through the lens of resources. These are the original books that were produced, and the one on the right is 30-year revision. And they basically, as General Sani said, showed that we are in quite serious trouble. The graph shows that we are, see the red dashed line? That is 2020. And this model that was developed in 1970 showed that if we continue business as usual, population growing and industrial production growing, then we will be asphyxiated by the pollution and we will be starved by the fall in food production because we'll have destroyed the soils and the water systems. So these models were not to say that this will happen. They were warnings that if we continue to do things the way we're doing, dashed line, they were not far off. Over the last few years, we have now found that we've got to do this. As you were informed just now, we do this meeting every year. For the last 4 years, we've looked at different kinds of resources, water, food, land, forests. And this year, we thought we would apply that thinking to a particular region, which is emerging as a place where many of these ideas could be tried out. Yes? I'll just finish. May I carry on? Yeah. Sure. So the ecological dimensions are in terms of the ecological footprint that you can see over there, the amount of land that each one of us is entitled to. In hectares, it's around 1 hectare, 0.8 hectares. In terms of the percentage of good productive land around the world, we're using 1.7 times what we're entitled to in our country. And this is nothing compared with the US or the United Arab Emirates, but basically it's a lot. It means that we need 1.7 India to support the population of India every year. And we don't have 1.7. And the trouble with our investments and our pattern of development is that it's a major lock-in. Once you've made roads and bridges and power stations and dams, they last. They don't disappear after a year or two. So you're locked into the consequences of those investments for 50, 100, and maybe more years. And that means that you can't shift away into a better pattern. So the big thing for the Club of Rome has been to raise efficiency, raise productivity. It's by doing many different things. One is the circular economy. Recycling, reusing, refurbishing our products and making them longer lived. Some are to see where so that we can modify the wastes of one industry become the raw materials of another. A very powerful idea which needs careful planning and thinking on the part of planners. India's future material consumption is going to increase no matter what because our population's grown as well as our consumption patterns. So if you look at this, you can see that we are going to be growing in our need for materials, and that is going to cause a lot of disruption. That's going to cause a lot of loss of forests and land and soils. Rivers disappear when you do this. And so we need to look at this as a major issue for redirecting our development. These issues are in every sector. In the construction sector, which uses about 22 to 25% of our materials and energy and emits that much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere for climate change, you can see how big an issue it is. And you can get around that by using renewable resources like bamboo, like pine shingles and so on. And there are different ways in which these things can be done. My own organization, Development Alternatives, has spent 35 years developing totally new renewable-based building materials or waste-based. You can use, oops, what happened? No, this is gone for 6. You can use materials from demolition waste. Don't have very much in India at the moment because people don't destroy that many buildings like they do in the West. But construction and demolition waste is going to become more and more part of our lives, and I think it's going to be very important. There's a little bit of a glitch in this machine, and I'm nearly finished. So here is your construction sector waste. And then there's the power sector and how we switch to renewables to avoid having to dig more and more coal and oil and gas from Mother Earth. At the rate that we're going with fossil fuels, we will have destroyed the planet's atmosphere, climate, as well as basically run out of fuels for future generations to use. So we need to improve our basic infrastructure and the transportation system. And all I can say is that this little girl, whose life actually should be determining how we develop. It's not. You read the newspapers in India and you think the only people who count are the very rich. All the news you get is about Sensex and stock markets and foreign direct investment and so on. How does that impact her? And I believe that if Kashmir and Jammu and Ladakh are going to have a future, it's going to be because we take her as the central aim of economic and social development. You have to see, as Gandhiji said in the talisman that all of us read in our textbooks, the face of the poorest person and then decide what you should do. And so it's important now that we redesign the way we actually think through what it is that our country is going to develop into. So as he said, be the change that you want to see. And if you don't, you will basically end up with the need for 3 Indias, which we won't have. Here we are. These are the 3 Indias that you're going to need, and all you got is the one on the left. So we are going to produce a report on the basis of the next 2 days. The next 2 days basically will give us an opportunity to hear you, to get ideas from you, preferably in writing, and we're going to put together a report that offers decision makers, they may be governments, they may be corporates, they may be NGOs, civil society, they certainly will be people like architects and engineers and all the professionals who help make our lives better, to understand the reasons why a good development can take place. I would like you to go away with the thought that during the course of today and tomorrow, we're going to be looking for your inputs. Whether you're young or you're highly experienced, we need now to envisage a very solid understanding of where we're going. So we invite you to take part, active part, with not only questions but comments on how we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are one of the leaders. We have our chief guest with us, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, Minister for Road Transport and Highway of India and Shipping Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises in the Government of India. In 1995, Mr. Gadkari was made PWD Minister in Maharashtra. As PWD Minister, Mr. Gadkari was instrumental in streamlining several projects, including the Mumbai-Pune Expressway and improving the lot of Mumbai's traffic. I would request you all to please join your hands together and welcome Mr. Nitin Gadkari. And we have also got Mr. Mathur with us, Lieutenant Governor of Ladakh. I would request you all to please stand and welcome them. Mr. Mathur had retired as the India's Defence Secretary 2 years after being appointed to the post on 25th May 2013. May I request you all to please sit down. He was also the Defence Production Secretary of India, Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise Secretary of India, and the Chief Secretary of Tripura. We would now be moving into inaugural session, wherein I would request all the dignitaries on the dais to please move towards the lighting of the lamp. Now I'd request Mr. S. Ramadurai to please present the bouquet to Mr. Nitin Gadkari. May I have the bouquets, please? Please join your hands together. And I'd also request Dr. Ashok Khosla to please present the bouquet.
Nitin Jairam Gadkari, Minister for Road Transport and Highways, Minister for Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Government of India, Sri Radhakrishna Mathur, Lieutenant Governor of the Union Territory of Ladakh, Dr. Ashok Khosla, Trustee, the Club of Rome, Sri Ranjit Barthakur, Secretary General, the Club of Rome, Lieutenant General Arun Kumar Sani, distinguished members of the Club of Rome and other think tanks, domain experts, friends from academia, media and the audience, and the students. Thank you, Ashok, for outlining the sessions planned over the next 2 days. Let me begin by wishing all of you a very happy and a prosperous new year and heartiest and build on the natural capital of India. Over the next 2 days, let's look at the opportunities that we may have in the newly created union territories of Jammu, Kashmir, Leh and Ladakh, which are nestled in the most beautiful region, the Himalayas. Successive state governments, both at the center and the state, have endeavored to promote industrialization and development in Jammu and Kashmir in various ways. The major thrust has been on tourism, horticulture, service sector, and manufacturing industries with varying degree of success. The government provided a 10-year tax holiday which began in the year 2002, a significant and a bold step taken in addition to providing a 100% excise exemption for 10 years. There is also in place capital in vogue, including working capital subsidy, term loan, single window clearance, transportation, etc. These measures, along with thoughtful additions and impetus from associations like the Club of Rome, will help push the development in the territories of J&K Leh and Ladakh. In addition to the several avenues and measures that are being looked at to boost the economy in the valley, the Honorable Prime Minister also met with the leaders of the corporate India to discuss the overall enough not to have been ravaged by industrialization. Unfortunately, the region lacks social development, businesses, primary healthcare facilities, and education. In the light of this, any activity pertaining to economic push could greatly benefit the local population for the entire region. In the past, the finance commissions of India were liberal in this region because of forest cover and international border lengths, which allowed for higher devolution and were given a special privilege. We now hope that after the change scenario on the status of the state and the continuation of the liberal allocations, it would further push for projects related to transportation, power generation, both hydropower and solar energy, tourism, biodiversity conservation, agriculture, horticulture, floriculture, resource efficient businesses, green industries, etc. These sectors will be the major future driver of these territories. Green financing legislation backed through the green banking and green funds, along with the stimulus from the private sector, will expedite the transformation of these territories. Green technologies and finances for the promotion of green business will give a new paradigm for Jammu and Kashmir and the Himalayan regions to build an environment-friendly business and, of course, a sustainable development model. This can certainly be looked. As many of you may know, South Kashmir is well known for the apple orchards. Pampore in Pulwama is renowned the world over for its saffron cultivation, and Central Kashmir has enough opportunities for food grains, almond, plum, and pear. As most of you may know, the finest Pashmina and the Yakul varieties of these areas are also world famous. The Budgam district is known for its maize, almond, plum, and pear, especially the Nak variety, while Ganderbal is famous for its cherry and grape orchards. The Indus Valley near Leh is also known to have the potential to yield significant crops. All of these are opportunities which help generate foreign exchange, employment opportunities, and business prospects in the region of the valley and Ladakh. This will be a key contributor in mitigating the challenge of poverty alleviation and negate the impact of climate change, especially in this ecologically fragile region. Systemic efforts in these sectors can play an important role in furthering the development of the valley. Several destinations can be designed to provide opportunities for local communities and act as a source of income, and thus ensuring conservation of nature and overall development of the Kashmir Valley. As the doors of development have now been opened, by restructuring the constitutional provisions, a balance of local inclusion and private investment should be vital for the overall growth and development. I'm delighted that the Club of Rome has envisioned to take the topic, creating a sustainable future for Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, new opportunities for an inclusive and green development for this year's conference. The conference today will see the participation of some of the brightest minds and people with deep policy expertise and, of course, practical experiences. After the last 5 years of discussions on various resources in different platforms of the Club of Rome, such as food, agriculture, soil, land, water, energy, forest, and resource efficiency, it's really important to see them in the regional and local context in the various parts of India. Every state and territory of this country has a unique charm, a unique history, and a unique culture, which makes it stand apart from the rest. They have a wide spectrum of possibilities. Over these 2 days of discussions and deliberations, I'm absolutely positive that we can carve out some possible approaches and solutions to develop a geographical apex region of our nation. In conclusion, it's important that development must include core preservation and enhancement of natural resources. Resource rich with accelerated development must be our focus, and this calls for collaboration between the center and the state governments, private enterprises, a startup entrepreneurial ecosystem, and the civil society. As they say, sabka saath, sabka vikas, including the planet. Thank you very much.
I'd now request Mr. Mathur to please come forward.
A very good morning to all of you. And July, I'll be able to get some inputs from you at the end of the conference. So I think it's very, very useful for me to be able to speak at this stage. First, I must say that no better time than this for a conference of this nature, because after removal of Article 370, the J&K Reorganization Act states that there would be a development package for Ladakh. Now, since there is a prospect for a monetary package, it would be very important for Ladakh to decide where this money should be spent, in what way this money should be spent. I have some thoughts which I would share with you, but as I said, that I'm an administrator, you are the experts, so I would love to hear what you say I should do with this money. It's let me say that I'm making this request and throwing a challenge to you that please come up with thoughts on this. Let me that is at the village panchayat already exists. There are many things which Government of India, almost along with the announcement of Union Territory, has done, which I should share with you. First is a program for about 7,500 megawatt of solar energy, as against a potential of 35,000 megawatt of solar energy in Ladakh. Other small projects of solar have also been announced by Government of India, which include a 14 megawatt and a 50 megawatt project. But even with this, as you notice, 35,000 is still a long way off. The Government of India has announced a medical college for Leh in particular. An Institute of Hotel Management has been announced. Sova Rigpa, which is one of the traditional systems of medicine practiced by the Amchis. An institute for Sova Rigpa would be set up, which would give actually degrees in Sova Rigpa method of treatment. Ladakh University has been announced, which would start functioning from this year itself. And small but a very important thing, Indian Oil announced a minus 33 degree capable diesel. This area was created by the Indian plate advancing and colliding with the Eurasian plate. And therefore, you see some areas which are called moonland. Very nice to see. I invite you to see it. The heights range from 8,000 feet to 25,000 feet, and any number of peaks above 18,000 feet. Paradise for mountain civilization. Unlike rest of the country, which goes by this name, but you don't have the privilege of sleeping in Indus Valley. weather, of course, which can go up to minus 50 degrees centigrade. Rainfall, which is practically non-existent. So it's a dry desert, high sunlight area. 300 days of sunlight. It's the only state which has China and Pakistan border. Together. There are areas which came into India from Pakistan during one of the wars, Turtuk. Again, a remarkable place. Very interesting place to see the culture, see things. More than 50% of the area of the state, 60,000 kilometers, with us, rest claimed in terms of Shaksgam Valley or POK or Aksai Chain. But out of that remaining 60,000, almost that the people are ready in their mind to look at this possibility of making money. Historically, of course, I may be boring you, but let me say that it was a feeder to the Silk Route from Yarkand, and therefore it was treated as the highest possible crossroads, the trading. Point of Ladakh, where one son would remain with the family to look after the land, so that land doesn't get fragmented. Rest of them would become monks. No longer the tradition, and therefore there's a problem of joblessness, because the other son or other child needs a job. Deaths reported last year in Leh, and 8 maternal mortality deaths in Kargil last year. Very low. 100% of the children are already in the schools. Quality is a problem, but they are there in the schools. The entire Indian ice hockey team, almost entire, comes from Ladakh. In fact, when I was coming here, one of the persons said that we are proud to be Ladakhis, and we want to the world to learn from Ladakh. So I think that is the spirit of the pupil. That amazing, sir, and it's very fortunate you are here, sir, because I would treat it as a, I'll use a very strong word, sir, as a disgrace to the nation that since independence, more than 70 years, whether it is Indian Army or the local population, during the winters, the entire ration is being airlifted. Year after year, 72 years. Should the country accept it? That's the question, which I think when I'm sitting there, we need to do something about it. In fact, the amount we houses which are very nicely done, roads which are brilliant, and you come this side and you see nothing. And it is resulting in migration of people from the border areas, which I think is very bad for the national security. We need to be able to give good infrastructure on the border to ensure that our people stay there. The young man possible. Now, that leaves just a window of 3-4 hours when you can get connected to the rest of the country. And again, that is a challenge, whether we can do better than that. I think we can. Improvement in education, of course, is a requirement. Health improvement is a requirement. We have plenty of water in terms of Indus and any number of other rivers and nalas. But still, every village faces shortages of water for 2 reasons. One, that you are at a height, how do you get water there? Second, that a lot of migrant population which pollutes the water sources. And we have the situation where a person 2000 megawatt of hydel, about 1000 megawatt of wind power, and geothermal, which is yet to be assessed. Incidentally, there are any number of geothermal plants right across the border in China. So I don't see why we should have that problem. And yet, we find that in winters, we run short of power because we have not planned for it. We have planned hydro plants which start generating about 1/3 of the power, the commissioned power, during winters because of lack of water. Vegetables which we don't get in winters, other provisions which we don't get in winters. So challenge. It's about the best that I have ever tasted. We need to be able to process them. And make it available. We have medicinal plants like sea buckthorn, or one particular plant which Honorable Prime Minister called as Sanjeevani, which are beautiful plants.
In the region, in this region because of forest cover and international border lengths, which allowed for higher devolution and were given a special privilege. We now hope that after the change scenario on the status of the state, the continuation of the liberal allocations, it would further push for projects related to transportation, power generation, both hydropower and solar energy,
In Ladakh.
tourism, biodiversity conservation.
There are butterflies. There are groups which come just to see a particular butterfly or a particular bird. So great opportunities there. I had occasion to look at areas like Dras and Zanskar from air. And I can vouchsafe that the ski slopes that are available there are out of this world. We have not developed any of them till date. We need to do it. Astronomy, I have just mentioned that this is the most beautiful sky that you can ever see. I think just on the grounds of, astronomy, it should become viable and ecologically sustainable. That's the challenge. So just to sum up, I see the areas of animal resources, which means pashmina and other animals. I see sea buckthorn, Sanjeevani, apricots, apples as the areas of development. I see power as the area of development. So these are the things on which, at least in my mind, I intend to focus on. But as I said, I am in the presence of experts, so I would love to hear from you anytime, and all of you are welcome to come.
The impact of climate change, especially in this ecologically fragile region. Systemic efforts in these sectors can play an important role the impact of climate change, especially in this ecologically fragile region. Systemic efforts in these sectors can play an important role in furthering the development of the valley. Several destinations can be designed to provide opportunities for local communities and act as a source of income and thus ensuring conservation of nature and overall development of the Kashmir Valley. As the doors of development have now been opened, by restructuring the constitutional provisions, a balance of local inclusion and private investment should be vital for the overall growth and development. I'm delighted that the Club of Rome has envisioned to take the topic, creating a sustainable future for Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, new opportunities for an inclusive and green development for this year's conference. The conference today will see the participation of some of the brightest minds and people with deep policy expertise and, of course, practical experiences. After the last 5 years of discussions on various resources in different platforms of the Club of Rome, such as food, agriculture, soil, land, water, energy, forest, and resource efficiency, it's really important to see them in the regional and local context in the various parts of India. Every state and territory of this country has a unique charm, a unique history, and a unique culture, which makes it stand apart from the rest. And deliberations, I'm absolutely positive that we can carve out some possible approaches and solutions to develop a geographical apex region of our nation. In conclusion, it's important that development must include core preservation and enhancement of natural resources. Resource rich with accelerated development must be our focus, and this calls for collaboration between the center and the state governments, private enterprises, a startup entrepreneurial ecosystem, and the civil society. As they say, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, including the planet. Thank you very much. In this region, because of forest cover and international border lengths, which allowed for higher devolution and were given a special privilege. We now hope that after the change scenario on the status of the state and the continuation of the liberal allocations, it would further push for projects related to transportation, power generation, both hydropower and solar energy, tourism, biodiversity conservation, agriculture, horticulture, floriculture, resource efficient businesses, green industries, etc. These sectors will be the major driver of these territories. Green financing legislation back to the green banking and green funds, along with the stimulus from the private sector, will expedite the transformation of these territories. Green technologies and finances for the promotion of green business will give a new paradigm for Jammu and Kashmir and the Himalayan regions to build an environmentally friendly business and, of course, a sustainable development model. This can certainly be looked. As many of you may know, South Kashmir is well known for the apple orchards. Pampore in Pulwama is renowned the world over for saffron cultivation. And Central Kashmir has enough opportunities for food grains, almond, plum, and pear. As most of you may know, the finest Kashmir and the Yakul varieties of these areas are also world famous. The Budgan district is known for its maize, almond, plum, and pear, especially the Nak variety, while Ganderbal is famous for its cherry and grape orchards. Indus Valley near Leh is also known to have the potential to yield significant crops. All of these are opportunities which help generate foreign exchange, employment opportunities, and business prospects in the region of the Valley and Ladakh. In this region, because of forest cover and international border lengths, which allowed for higher devolution and were given a special privilege. We now hope that after the change scenario on the status of the state and the continuation of the liberal allocations, it would further push for projects related to transportation, power generation, both hydropower and solar energy, tourism, biodiversity conservation, agriculture, horticulture, floriculture, resource efficient businesses, green industries, etc. These sectors will be the major future driver of these territories. Green financing legislation back to the green banking and green funds, along with the stimulus from the private sector, will expedite the transformation of these territories. Green technologies and finances for the promotion of green business will give a new paradigm for Jammu and Kashmir and the Himalayan regions to build an environment-friendly business and, of course, a sustainable development model. This can certainly be looked. As many of you may know, South Kashmir is well known for the apple orchards. Pampore in Pulwama is renowned the world over for its saffron cultivation. And Central Kashmir has enough opportunities for food grains, almond, plum, and pear. As most of you may know, the finest Kashmir and the Yakul varieties of these areas are also world famous. The Budgam district is known for its maize, almond, plum, and pear, especially the Nak variety, while Ganderbal is famous for its cherry and grape orchards. The Indus Valley near Leh is also known to have the potential to yield significant crops. All of these are opportunities which help generate foreign exchange, employment opportunities, and business prospects in the region of the Valley and Ladakh. In this region, because of forest cover and international border length, which allowed for higher devolution and were given a special privilege. We now hope that after the change scenario on the status of the state, the continuation of the liberal allocations, it would further push for projects related to transportation, power generation, both hydropower and solar energy, tourism, biodiversity conservation, agriculture, horticulture, floriculture, resource efficient businesses, green industries, etc. These sectors will be the major future driver of these territories. Green financing legislation back to the green banking and green funds, along with the stimulus from the private sector, will expedite the transformation of these territories. Green technologies and finances for the promotion of green business will give a new paradigm for Jammu and Kashmir and the Himalayan regions to build an environment-friendly business and, of course, a sustainable development model. This can certainly be looked. As many of you may know, South Kashmir is well known for the apple orchards. Pampore in Pulwama is renowned the world over for its saffron cultivation. And Central Kashmir has enough opportunities for food grains, almond, plum, and pear. As most of you may know, the finest Kashmir and the Yakul varieties of these areas are also world famous. The Budgam district is known for its maize, almond, plum, and pear, especially the Nak variety, while Ganderbal is famous for its cherry and grape orchards. Indus Valley near Leh is also known to have the potential to yield significant crops. All of these are opportunities which help generate foreign exchange, employment opportunities, and business prospects in the region of the Valley and Ladakh. In this region, because of forest cover and international border length, which allowed for higher devolution and were given a special privilege. We now hope that after the change scenario on the status of the state, and the continuation of the liberal allocations, it would further push for projects related to transportation, power generation, both hydropower and solar energy, tourism, biodiversity conservation, agriculture, horticulture, floriculture, resource efficient businesses, green industries, etc. These sectors will be the major future driver of these territories. Green financing legislation back to the green banking and green funds, along with the stimulus from the private sector, will expedite the transformation of these territories. Green technologies and finances for the promotion of green business will give a new paradigm for Jammu and Kashmir and the Himalayan regions to build an environment-friendly business and of course a sustainable development model. This can certainly be looked. As many of you may know, South Kashmir is well known for the apple orchards. Pampore in Pulwama is renowned the world over for its saffron cultivation. And Central Kashmir has enough opportunities for food grains, almond, plum, and pear. As most of you may know, the finest Pashmina and the Yakul varieties of these areas are also world famous. The Budgam district is known for its maize, almond, plum, and pear, especially the Nak variety, while Ganderbal is famous for its cherry and grape orchards. Indus Valley near Leh is also known to have the potential to yield significant crops. All of these are opportunities which help generate foreign exchange, employment opportunities, and business prospects in the region of the Valley and Ladakh. The impact of climate change, especially in this ecologically fragile region. Systemic efforts in these sectors can play an important role in furthering the development of the valley. Several destinations can be designed to provide opportunities for local communities and act as a source of income and thus ensuring conservation of nature and overall development of the Kashmir Valley. As the doors of development have now been opened by restructuring the constitutional provisions, a balance of local inclusion and private investment should be very vital for the overall growth and development. I am delighted that the Club of Rome has envisioned to take the topic, creating a sustainable future for Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, new opportunities for an inclusive and green development for this year's conference. The conference today will see the participation of some of the brightest minds and people with deep policy expertise and of course practical experiences. After last 5 years of discussions on various resources in different platforms of the Club of Rome, such as food, agriculture, soil, land, water, energy, forest, and resource efficiency, it's really important to see them in the regional and local context in the various parts of India. Every state and territory of this country has a unique charm, a unique history, and a unique culture, which makes it stand apart from the rest. They have some deliberations. I am absolutely positive that we can carve out some possible approaches and solutions to develop the geographical apex region of our nation. In conclusion, it's important that development must include core preservation and enhancement of natural resources with accelerated development must be our focus, and this calls for collaboration between the central and state governments, private enterprises, a startup entrepreneurial ecosystem, and the civil society. As they say, sabka saath, sabka vikas, including the planet. Thank you very much. The impact of climate change, especially in this ecologically fragile region. Systemic efforts in these sectors can play an important role in furthering the development of the valley. Several destinations can be designed to provide opportunities for local communities and act as a source of income and thus ensuring conservation of nature and overall development of the Kashmir Valley. As the doors of development have now been opened by restructuring the constitutional provisions, a balance of local inclusion and private investment should be very vital for the overall growth and development. I am delighted that the Club of Rome has envisioned to take the topic, creating a sustainable future for Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, new opportunities for an inclusive and green development for this year's conference.